And you are live.
Thank you, Sutton. Actually, can I ask you to join me in the invocation and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please? If you would bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings you have given us. We thank you for providing us the opportunity to serve the citizens of Elkins. We ask that you help us to remain open-minded and civil, and that you guide us in our decision-making to help our community grow. We ask that you give us guidance as we drive in the bad weather out there and get us home safely. We also ask that you watch over and guide our country's leaders. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
I now call to order the Elkins Common Council regular meeting. And I will ask our clerk to please take roll call.
Councillor Bross Fragonera.
Here.
Councillor Chenoweth is absent. Councillor Quanzo. Councillor Friddle.
Here.
Councillor Guy. Councillor Higgins.
Here.
Councillor Hinchman.
Here.
Councillor Lowther.
Here.
Councillor Parker.
Here.
Councillor Vest.
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for public comment tonight? If not, we will move down to minutes, and I will look for a motion to approve the minutes from the January 6, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion. Are there any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. In your correspondence and notifications, we have issued building permits and treasurer's reports. And actually, I'm going to provide you the treasurer's report here in a little bit since our treasurer is out sick tonight. So, any questions on that?
Can I just make a comment that there were no building permits included just because they weren't provided prior to the meeting. The building inspector hasn't been available
He's
to
been out
do
sick as well.
those. So we'll catch up next time.
Thank you. Okay, right now we have a presentation for the Davis Health Foundation by the Executive Director, Mike Bell. Welcome, Mike.
Mayor Marco, Council, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity actually to share a brief update on behalf of all of Davis Health System, not just the foundation. Out of respect for your time and the threatening weather out there, I decided to limit it to 5 big ideas. So you can keep count with me if you will. First, I really couldn't stand before you representing your local hospital and health system without saying the COVID word. The good news is we are seeing people that are a lot less sick than they were months ago. The latest variants seem to be not quite as potent at making people gravely ill, but we are still seeing anywhere from 10 to 15 COVID patients a day in our hospital. We are full each and every day. There's a concept, and we want to extend our thanks to the community for supporting our efforts a few years ago to expand and enhance our emergency department to where we have all private exam and treatment rooms. At any given time, we are boarding 12 to 15 inpatients in the ER, which means we've basically taken half of the emergency department and made it a basic inpatient unit. And that is a combination of COVID patients and people presenting with any illness or condition that they would turn to their local hospital to take care of them. We are facing staffing shortages at every level, like most employers. I'll touch on that again in a moment. But we continue to encourage vaccination, hand washing, mask in public indoor spaces, take care of yourself and each other. We're managing is about where we are. I would say 2/3 of the cases we're seeing are the latest Omicron variant, and you read the news outlets like I do, we're probably at least a good 2 weeks away from that surge kind of beginning to taper off. So that's the COVID update. Number 2, we're really excited after about a 5-year process that Webster Memorial Hospital in Webster Springs is now a full integrated part of Davis Health System, and you may wonder why I would bother to share that with the Elkins City Council. We just feel that it really secures Davis Health System as your regional hub for healthcare. We serve 6 counties. This makes 3 hospitals, Webster Memorial, Broadus Hospital in Philippi, and our 60-bed skilled nursing facility, Mansfield Place in Philippi, along with our clinic, Buchanan Medical Care, in Upshur. So again, we feel that we're securing services, bringing specialty services not only to Elkins, but throughout the region to be able to better serve the population. Next on the agenda for Webster will be a complete new facility. So we will be relocating and rebuilding that hospital in the very near future. Number three, I mentioned workforce. Just like most employers, we struggle to fill positions at every level, from housekeeping and nutrition services to nurses, nurse practitioners, physician recruitment. Every level is a challenge. And so we began back last fall with the first cohort of our Davis Academy. The Davis Academy is not a full apprenticeship program, but it really is an attempt for those jobs that we often train in-house. For lab techs, entry-level radiology jobs, nutrition services, IT, that we can take a cohort class, have them do rotations through 6 or 8 departments within the hospital, learn a little bit about each job, see what their interest and their aptitude is, and they are paid full wage and benefits throughout that 8 or 9 month period. And at the end, there will be an opening somewhere. So it's more of where do you best fit and where can we plug you where we have a need. So the Davis Academy, and a piece of that at the most basic level of patient care is the Certified Nursing Assistant, and we just graduated our first in-house class of CNAs. So very excited about that, and we plan to target graduating high school seniors each year to where we could onboard 10 to 12 new employees and complete that training in-house. Number 4, you may have heard that we opened a Starbucks. That's only a little bit of the story. What we have launched is a healthy marketplace, and that really is anchored by a food pharmacy. We have a lot of patients who face food insecurity. And so when they're trying to manage high blood pressure, heart disease, by eating healthier, they don't have access to healthy foods, and they also may not even know how to prepare the healthy foods. So this was a pilot program initially where the physician could write a prescription, and we would give food boxes, fresh produce, recipes, cooking utensils, pots and pans, a shopping bag, really coach people through how to buy the right groceries, how to prepare them, and how to better take care of their own health and the health of their families. And we're tracking and seeing great progress in their blood sugars better, their blood pressures better, their weight is better managed. So it's going to contribute to their overall health. So we're going to expand on this and offer group classes, healthy cooking, expand our diabetes education courses, do yoga, light exercise, to where really we're continuing to focus on people living well. This used to be called disease state management, and then it became chronic care management, and then we tried population health. It's whatever we call it, is how do people live well when they're facing a lifelong condition or diagnosis. So you're going to see more. In fact, you're going to see us reopen the old visitor entrance on Gorman that's been closed throughout COVID. That we hope to open early February. And that'll grant public access into the space where some of these classes and services are going to be offered, and we can let them come in so far, and then we've built new doors to keep them from going on into the hospital, because we'll certainly still need to screen for entrance to protect everybody and infection control and all that. The last piece is the biggest of the 5. The Davis Health System Board of Directors recently adopted a 10-year master facilities plan. This will be a 2 to 5 year investment, a substantial investment, multi-million-dollar investment in expanding and improving the facilities here at Davis Medical Center. So among the things we're going to focus on first is a new Women and Children's Center for Women and Children's Health. If you see the mobile imaging truck that parks behind the emergency department once a week, about where that sits, we envision being under contract and breaking ground by year-end 2022 to build a new 2-story addition to the building there. It'll have what we've called the Family Birthing Center for OBGYN services. It'll have observation rooms for pediatric and general population psychiatric patients who just need to be observed for 24, 48 hours before we make a decision about admission or discharge home or transfer. So that we can better meet the needs of those patients. And we'll be bringing a breast health center and a midwife program into that women and children's health focus as well. So that is very needed. And then it becomes a domino effect. That once we have those programs moved into new space, we can begin to renovate the existing space. When you're in the hospital today, you would like a private room. We know that. And it's not just because it's nicer, it's safer. And we've had to pretty much put negative pressure in every single room for infection control during a pandemic. We hope we don't face this again, but we want to be better prepared just in case, that we can protect the health and safety of each patient. We've learned a lot over the past 2 years, and we want to be able to better respond in the future. We've met and then continue to meet and be in dialogue with the mayor and the task force on homelessness and substance use disorders. We've had a very limited medical assisted treatment program that really focused on expectant mothers. We want to expand that. And we want to expand our outreach to those living with substance use disorders. There are so many social determinants of health, housing, transportation, food insecurity that I mentioned before. These things really make it hard for people to stay healthy, and then when they are sick, it makes it harder to comply with following the doctor's instructions and taking their prescriptions as prescribed, or their exercise routine, whatever's been recommended. So we really see that becoming more of a focus over the next few years, that we're focusing on the health of the community and not just when you come and see us because you're sick. So those are the big 5 things that are happening. Thank you to those of you that have reached out personally and asked how we're doing. Our staff is exhausted. So if you know a nurse or anyone that works at the hospital in any way, thank them. This, is beyond what anybody's seen in their career up to this point. So we're just like everybody else, hoping that we're further along in it than we're closer to the end than the beginning is what we're hopeful for. Be happy to take simple questions. I'm not a doctor.
I'd like to ask a couple things, if I may. I just wanted to say thanks for coming out. It's nice to see you here, Mike.
Thanks.
But I did want to ask on the market, is that, and I suspect I may know the answer for this, just based off what you said earlier, but is that for patients specifically, or is that open to the public?
It will eventually be open to the public. We
Okay.
started with a pilot group of patients and families. We're going to expand on that. The vision eventually is it will be open, and you could come in and buy fresh produce. You could buy like the meal kits that have everything you need to prepare that meal, and it tells you whether it aligns with your heart disease or your blood, but whatever your diabetes, whatever you're trying to manage, whether it's a good fit for you. So eventually it will be a community marketplace, and we'll put nurses and social workers close at hand. So if somebody comes in and say, hey, I was just diagnosed, I don't even understand how to take care of myself, you could purchase some things and get some information and care all in one-stop shop.
That's really awesome. And then my other question was, after having just used the OB unit over there, that's a pretty big place. So that addition, I'm guessing, is going to take up, a lot of that parking lot?
I don't like to talk about parking. It will be a substantial footprint, but we do have some buildings, outlying buildings that the hospital owns that over time we've talked about taking down. So we'll probably just move some parking around. Cool. And again, it's a 10-year master facilities plan. So, but the Women and Children's Health Center is, by year end, we hope to have started.
That's really cool. Thank you.
Yes?
First of all, I just wanted to thank you for, I know several people who take advantage of the free lunch Fridays that the hospital offers the senior center, and I know it's a huge, popular event over there. But anyway, I wondered about the midwife program that you were discussing. Are you actually going to train midwives, or are you going to actually just?
We are actively recruiting at this
Okay.
point, and it may lead to training. West Virginia has some pretty strict rules about how both OBGYN physicians and midwives are trained and licensed. Other states are a little more lenient that a family practice nurse practitioner can get involved pretty quickly, but we are recruiting. Folks may have heard that Dr. Banfield is leaving. She's accepted a leadership position with a health system in Maryland. We are very close, and I don't want to jinx it, but we're talking with 3 physicians and 3 midwives about joining the practice. So,
Awesome.
Excellent.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on down to the committee reports. Keep forgetting we changed the agenda around now, so Mr. Chenoweth is out. Counselor Guy?
No report.
Thank you. Counselor Hinchman?
Finance hadn't met, but I did want to share one thing with us from the Secretary of State, new businesses from January to December the 31st, we had 101. We started out with 769, and we ended up with 811, and that puts us at a 13.2% growth. And from April until December, we've had 76 new businesses. That ranks us in the top 2% in the state, and that's a 9.63% growth.
Excellent, thank you. Counselor Priddle.
Thank you, Mayor. The Special Hiring Committee has met weekly for the most part, and we have reviewed all the applicants to put together a group of people that we would interview. Those interviews will begin on Monday, and we'll follow up with a couple extra ones that we aren't able to get in on Monday. I believe that's on Thursday.
Thursday, sir, yes.
So we are moving forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Exciting times. Counselor Higgins.
I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Counselor Lowther.
Parks met last evening. Not a lot on the agenda, just snow removal and stick cleanup. And that's all I have. Looking forward to spring.
Thank you. Before I move on, I have to say happy birthday, Nancy Brosfer-Ganera.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I apologize for my phone ringing. I had turned it off and I don't know what happened. So I apologize, Mike, for my, yeah. That's right. I apologize.
I'm
greatly.
sure it's somebody wishing you happy birthday, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it was. I had a question about the ARPA committee, whether we would be meeting soon, because I have received a few questions from the public regarding being able to apply for some funds. We had mentioned at one of the meetings that we had allocated money to be set aside for community action projects, and some folks have asked me what the...
I was actually going to mention that in my report.
Oh, okay, great, awesome. With the Planning Commission, we are meeting on Monday at 1 o'clock. We'll be doing some more processes, going through the final draft. We have made a few changes, some of which have been requested, some and mentioned by members of council as a concern. So we're hoping that in February, maybe, we'll be able to bring a draft. I was hoping it would be for my birthday, but that didn't happen. Mostly because we want to make sure this is an awesome document. The rules and ordinances met. We started discussing in a very preliminary sort of way issues related to downtown sidewalk repairs, and mostly some of the concerns I had and others have expressed to me were about projects that take place downtown, changing sort of the streetscape, and how there's a need to have a formalized streetscape plan. So I've been talking with David Cutlip a little bit about that issue, and we'll keep that discussion going. And we were talking about parking in alleys, so that was also, we will be discussing that again in February's meeting. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
for me. Thanks.
Counselor Kwanzo.
Okay, let's see, tree board, we met on January 4th, and I think the biggest issue that, to call everybody's attention to from that meeting agenda was the city park understory tree update, which was, we're working with our AmeriCorps worker to, and parks and urban forestry and we all met, several tree board members, and those people, Sam Adams, Tom Tessar, myself, and 2 other tree board members, and the AmeriCorps worker, to decide exactly where to put the trees in the city park. And Linda Burke, who was our silviculturist, it's on the committee, had a GPS pegging, and she made us a little map, which is pretty amazing, so we know exactly where all the trees are going. And fencing has been ordered, and the posts have all been ordered, and so we're on. It's moving forward. Under municipal properties, I'm pretty much going to skate by on most of this because I'm going to let Jerry and Jessica talk about 2 different items. And the storage building for Baxter Street, I think that I'll let Melody talk about that if she would like. We're looking into what exactly might be needed over there instead of just building a storage building. We're also talking about auction for surplus equipment. The administration's going to work on developing a list for that. And I think that's pretty much everything that came out of there. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Vest.
No report.
Thank you. Counselor Parker.
Yes, sir. With public safety, we focused primarily on dealing with distressed properties. We have been going through the bid process for demolitions, and it really just sort of to remind everyone about what that process is like. We identify the properties, we prioritize the properties that we have to deal with and that we most likely will need to work on a demo with. We've got to have legal standing to do that, which Councilor Roberts sees to it that we have so that none of us go to jail. Thank you, Councilor.
Good idea.
And then we have to do asbestos testing on each of those properties. And that has been completed on the top 3 on the hit parade right now. And as always, we've got at least one that has some strange ownership issues, but we find our way through those. The asbestos testing has been done on our top 3. We put out requests for bids on both asbestos abatement based on those asbestos assessments that were done. And then we put out a bid for demo costs. And because there were some demo contractors who are not certified and licensed and don't want to deal with the asbestos piece of it, and I do understand that. We held that open a little longer than we ordinarily would to try to accommodate 1 or 2 contractors who sort of came late to the party. But that has been done, and I believe we are now ready to move on the first of those 3 properties. We've got it ready to boogie, and I believe that's going to be 201 Graham Street.
Correct.
And that, because of its proximity to the other houses, it's a little trickier to take down, but there's good access to the lot, and so I think we'll be fine. And the other thing I wanted to remind you all of is that, it's one thing just to pull down that structure, but it's a whole other thing to clean up the entire site, and we do that. I mean, the city does do that. It adds some cost, but I can't imagine that within city limits, we're going to tear a place down, haul it off to the landfill, and leave the rest of the lot basically untouched after we're finished. And so we clean it up. We have a contractor clean it up really well. And then it's graded out and seeded. And it also makes it more attractive for prospective buyers who might want to pick up that property once we're finished with it. And so that all is a part of that package. And so some comparisons you may have heard about demo costs here or there, they may or they may not include all of that. And you just need to be aware of that, because some of the lowest numbers I've heard did not involve all of these things. There were separate invoices for elements of the project and so forth. But thank you all for your patience. It is happening. We've got 3, we're walking and rolling. We do believe that based on all the numbers we've received as of this week, that we can put all 3 of those into our existing budget without any trouble. And that's good news, because You know, sometimes you can get snake bit on this, and you have one that takes up 85 or 90% of your budget. And we have gotten into that on occasion. But anyway, I think it's real progress, and I'm very pleased. And so next, we're moving on prioritizing the next properties to come down, and then making sure that we have the legal standing with the courts to proceed on those as funds permit. So there's that. And then my other hat, my cowboy hat, the mayor wanted me to put on for the mayor's task force. I want to just keep you all up to speed on that now because it's moving along. Was it last week? I guess it was last week. Marky Jeffries and I went down to the legislature, I think that whenever it was, and we met with our two delegates and spoke with them with regard to homelessness and addiction. I mean, and the way those two things seem to be so sadly intertwined with other mental health issues. Anyway, we spoke with them about the need for a long-term focus on this at the state level. The municipalities cannot take this on by themselves. It's just too big. And they were very, very receptive. And I think we're going to have great support from them. We didn't go to ask them for any specific funding or actions at the moment, with a single exception, which should be a gimme. And that is that it's been brought to our attention repeatedly that people whose lives are in a fragile state and are kind of bouncing from place to place and they're couch surfing or however it is they're getting by, they're always losing their paperwork. They're always losing their IDs. And they can't they can't do anything without an ID. They tell a homeless person, well, we really can't do anything until you have an ID. But to have an ID, you have to have a permanent address. How are they going to do that? And somebody said, well, the concern is that we can't give all these crazy people driver's licenses. I mean, it was said to me like that. And I'm like, we're not talking about giving deeply disturbed people driver's licenses. The state issues ID cards, formal state of West Virginia ID cards. So anyway, long and short of it is one of our delegates is going to reintroduce a piece of legislation. It didn't get out of committee last session. He's going to run it back up the flagpole. He will have some support from our other delegate. We will meet with Senator Hamilton tomorrow, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 3:30. And we are, I think, reasonably confident that we're going to have good buy-in from the senator as well. And so our delegation will be largely really pulling for us on this. And we'll be helping the legislature as a whole to keep its eye on the prize for the long term with this work. We cannot fix this in 2 legislative sessions. It's not going to happen that way. This is a long-term commitment. And so that's what we've worked with them on. Then we are focusing, we have one member of the task force who is working very directly with 2 organizations that are appropriate organizations in the community to begin to address the matter that I've brought up before about safe and sober living for women in recovery and women with children in recovery, women who are in recovery and have bambinas. And that is a high priority item. There is no such thing anywhere in the area. And it's in scarce supply all over the state. So that's happening. We are continuing to look at several buildings. I think we're at a point where we are going to be able to talk, we're going to be talking some money with people here in the next week or so. Have no idea where that's going to land yet. Keep your fingers crossed. We are having the core group meeting, small group meeting again on Tuesday morning in the Bat Cave. The Bat Cave is the EPD conference room. It's really great. I'm getting a bat insignia to put up on the door frame. I love working with the guys there. And and the highlight of this meeting for us, I think we never know. It's always interesting. But Dr. Chua is going to be here from Davis Health. She is the the chief of medical services for Davis. And they have been working on a very, very comprehensive plan that touches all or most of the points that we have felt really need to be addressed for the community and for the region, because this is a regional approach. And I've asked her if she would share that with the rest of the core group. We really get that solidified in our thinking, and everybody hears the same thing at the same time, and they don't have to count on me. That could get interesting. So that's going to happen. And then next week also we have a large group meeting, just so you will know, and that is the wider community of stakeholders, who are the social service agencies of every description from around the region. And we are going to be working with them to, I'm not sure what the right words, we understand that for this effort to work for the region, at the core, the center of it, has to be clinical services that deal with all the elements of recovery, that deal with the mental health issues that may or may not have anything to do with addiction. Those clinical services have to be there, and then around that clinical hub, we build the support network of all our agencies that are currently working, and there are just an amazing number of good people doing this work. But we would like to have them, or a part of their operation, all under one roof, where it is efficient and effective, and communication is first class, and for our client population, it is much, much more manageable and accessible. In a very big nutshell, that was it. Thank you for your time.
Dave, I think you left out one important piece. We actually had a team from Huntington visit us earlier in the week, and they have actually provided services in the Huntington area, and they want to expand and open something here and be part of our task force as well. So they're actually expanding, and they're going to come up here and be part of our team as well. So couldn't be more pleased with the outreach that we've got throughout the state. And whenever we visited Huntington a couple months ago, the common theme was, we're in this together. Everybody kept saying this, we're in this together. And I honestly believe that, like I said, they want to adopt us and they want to be part of this. So that was tremendous for us. And Dave, thank you so much for that. Okay, down to the staff reports. Chief Bennett was not feeling well, so he is not here tonight. We're going to mix this up just a little bit. I have the treasurer's report right now because she also went home today not feeling well, so I feel like we're dodging bullets in City Hall today. Tracy sent me some numbers for you guys to report out on. She received notification that our next sales tax deposit will occur within the next week. It will be for $373,273.74. This is an increase of $39,246.03 from the same period as last year. Comparing the numbers from the last years, we've seen an increase of $114,530.85. So for fiscal year 2022, we have $1,099,003.11. Fiscal year 21, we had $984,472.26, and in 20, it was $862,026.38. And I will give you those numbers, Jessica, if you need them, because I rattled them off pretty quickly. So.
I'll get those later.
Lisa, Melody, and Tracy are also working on implementing the state fuel fleet card. The fleet card is accepted at 100% of the gas stations. Visa will also perform all state and federal reclamations on behalf of the city. So that's good news there. And hopefully she'll be back in soon. She's going to get tested tomorrow. And moving on, I'm going to do this a little bit out of order because we have a special guest tonight. We have our chief operator of wastewater plant, Whitney Himes, who's going to give us a report. And this is going to become a monthly ordeal that she's going to present one week, and we're going to have Wes Lambert present the other meeting. So welcome, Whitney.
Well, thanks for having me tonight. I appreciate it. I guess I'm going to give you a little presentation on a hidden gem of the city of Elkins that not too many people know about, or don't want to know about maybe, I'm not sure. But I'm sorry if I haven't met all you formally. My name's Whitney Himes, like Mayor Marco said. I'm the chief operator of the wastewater facility. A little bit of background on myself. Never thought I'd be in a wastewater field, kind of stepped into it. When I graduated college, I went to work for the city of Billington, and that's where my career in wastewater started. Worked on the collection system a little bit and did some lift station repairs, so I have been in the field along with the plant. Did other little bit here and there work there with the municipality. But then 12 years ago, I applied up here, and the rest is history. So time does fly when you're having fun, I guess. But a little bit about your sewer plant. I'm not sure how aware you are of the wastewater facility, but the city of Elkins has a Class 3 activated sludge plant, and that's based on your population and your flow. Your classifications range between a 1 and a 4, so that gives you a little bit of an idea where the city of Elkins lies. The max daily flow that we're designed to take is 4.99 million gallons a day, so that is quite a bit of flow. And when I started 12 years ago, when we would get a rain event, it would max out to our hydraulic capacity of 10 million gallons. So I know the citizens of Elkins and all of you are seeing the streets tore up with the Phase 1 and 2 project. I do want to relay the information that that work is doing a tremendous amount of benefit with the wastewater facility. Our flows, when we get wet weather, has dropped to 6 to 7 million gallon to like 2.5 to 3. So this work that you're dodging on the street, it's making a difference.
It's the price of progress, Whitney, correct?
Yes, it's a tremendous, tremendous help. And your wastewater facility only runs as well as what your collection system is bringing in. So we have showed a tremendous efficiency increase by doing the stormwater work. So thank you for being patient with that. Please tell the citizens when you see them, thank you for being patient with us with that as we get through that.
This is being streamed live, so you just told them, so thank you.
But it has helped. So as you know, throughout the city, when you flush your commoder, you get rid of waste through the bathroom sinks or whichever. It goes through a network of lines through the collection system to the lift station or pumping system, which is there in return pumped to us. We use no chemical treatment, so it's all microbial treatment. We use microorganisms. So my job as an operator is to keep those critters as happy as possible. So today they'd be on a beach down in Florida, not the snowy weather. But we want to keep them fat and sassy and happy. So my job is to make sure the environment that they're living in is good, that they have enough food coming in, enough organics coming in that they can survive on. So when we get rid of waste, you might see the white dump truck driving around through town. That's our solids that we're getting rid of. And this is called biosolids. And we have farmers or landowners that are taking this material and they're putting on their fields for yield increase. I have a gentleman down in Barber County. He has around a 20-acre field. He was getting 45 bales of hay. After our application, it went to 90 bales. So it's a wonderful fertilizer and a soil amendment. But to get rid of that, or biosolids, is one thing, but your effluent or your water that we're treating and putting back into the river is something else. So we are very regulated. The Clean Water Act of 1972 makes sure that anything being put back in your waterways is treated to top notch. So you would be surprised at some of the stringent regulations that we have of the water that we're putting back into the river. And we have a state-certified laboratory, which I'm very proud of down there. So we run around 40 clients in surrounding areas. So not only do we run our samples weekly, and we have annual and semi-annuals and all kinds of testing, we also run other clients. And we're very proud of that. We try to make sure that gets out there. If you want a tour, please come down. But that's a pretty quick introduction to wastewater. If you'd like to tour, please come down. I'd love to show you. I'm a geek when it comes to it. I love my job. I love the scientific background, so please come on down and I'll tell you all about it. But some of the things that we are doing currently is we are getting a new SCADA system. And this SCADA system will help us monitor our flows coming in and out. It'll also help us monitor our equipment better. Right now we do everything manually, and this will be a tremendous help for us. So we'll be able to see how long those pumps ran if our pumping efficiencies are down and how to replace those pumps and form a better asset management plan for 5 or 10 years down the road if we see these are starting to decrease in pumping efficiencies. One thing that I really would like to see and we're working on is, you heard me talk about the biosolids removal. Right now we're a Class B, so we control that with land application. We're actually talking about hopefully maybe getting a pellet mill here for the city of Elkins, which is a pretty innovative thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anywhere in West Virginia has something like this right now. And if we do that, we can have the Class A, we can sell it to the citizens, people around surrounding areas, they can come in and buy it and put it on their farm themselves or their garden or whichever they need to be. And we can also help surrounding communities with taking their processed sludge too. Not everyone does land application, they have to dispose of it another way, so we can take their sludge and help them out too. The plant was first built in 1986, and that's not old, because that's when I was born, but my joints are feeling it, so I know some of that's pumping and stuff down there starting to feel it too. So currently, we're undergoing an asset management plan to try to get a better handle on things that may need replaced. So we can get a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, so we're not like, oh goodness, we have to replace all these pumps at once. The collection system is actually doing some pretty cool work now too. After the Phase 2 project, there were some sewer separation issues along the city that the houses were going into the river. So they've actually got quite a bit of those completed. They're making great progress on that and getting that taken care of. And we're in the process, Melanie and I are working on grants to get some generators. There's 4 generators that we're looking to purchase, so all the lift stations in the city will have backup power in case the power goes out. We're doing some lift station reviews and asset management for them also. Some of these stations are pretty outdated, so we're looking at new pumps and motors and trying to figure out a plan for that in the future. And we've also been working with Ben Martin on doing all kinds of our mapping and getting new updated maps. Maps are very important. We've come to find out some of ours are pretty outdated, so we're trying to get that all taken care of. But other than that, that's just on the front burner. There's a lot of other projects that we're looking into doing in the future. And I do want to say thank you all for being so patient with us while we're going through this transition. I just want to throw out there that the guys working under me are wonderful employees, and I couldn't do it without them. So the collection guys are out there working in it, and my guys at the plant are working, and we're trying to do the best we can. But if there's any questions, or if you want a tour, please come down. I'd be more than happy to talk all day about sewage. I know I'm kind of boring with that, but please come down. I'll give you a tour anytime, and we can talk further.
I have one question for you, Whitney. If we would go towards the pellet system, and you say take, I guess, the waste from other communities, is there a market to be able to move that much?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's quite a bit of places that they take it to the landfill or they take it to another plant to process. So there's.
So you have that many people wanting pellets then?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think the sell of the pellets would be very fast,
Okay, thank you.
especially if the price of fertilizer now. I mean, farmers, I think, would really take to it.
Any other questions?
I just want to thank you. I knew nothing about wastewater, but I know a lot now, and the city should be very proud to have you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great.
I'd love to see a tour too.
would
You know, so set one up. You have my interest is piqued for sure.
Sure, I'd love to get
Anyone
it.
who can be that enthusiastic has something to share with all of us.
Yeah.
So just line up a time and
Sure. I'd
we'll
love
be
to.
there. That would be awesome.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you,
guys.
Whitney.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and now from our other Miss Himes.
Good evening. Thank you, Whitney. It's nice, I've always said, my very first trip down to the wastewater treatment plant was when Mike Wolf was still there, and he was talking very technical. I understood nothing, so Whitney was really good. It's just really good about breaking things down, and then I think then he realized that my brain was not in the same place as was, but it's really cool. I like to talk to kids. I know before we've had some kids to come and tour City Hall, and I think we talked to him about all the different departments we have and how, once you flush the toilet, where it goes, and the water that comes out of your spigot and all of those things. So it's really important if you guys go out and take tours. I'm willing to help set those up, and we can do just small groups, and I can work with Whitney and Wes the same at the water plant. Any of the departments, we can do that. It's helpful. I think everybody likes to see visitors, So, thank you, Whitney. Let's see, I've got a lot to talk about. I'll try to make it quick. I know Whitney mentioned Ben Martin, and he's been doing an exceptional job. He's working also with the street department, doing some mapping, the water department, sewer. We just met yesterday and talked about some different things he's working on with Sutton and Jessica and Rachel, and it's really nice to have him. So sometimes I asked him, are you okay on third floor? Because sometimes I feel like, he's there by himself. He said he does okay. So if you're ever here at City Hall, you want to go up and see him. He has a really cool printer, and he's working on some mapping. So it's really great. It's amazing how our mapping is so outdated. So it's really nice to have Ben. He's a great, great coworker. So like Mayor Marco said, we are working on an online auction. That was Marilyn, I'm sorry. The online auction, Shanna and Danny Harris and I spoke about this, and we're working on a list of vehicles and equipment. So what they're gonna do is to get together with all the supervisors and get, as well as admin officers, if there are any vehicles in their departments that need to be auctioned. We did this back a couple of years ago. We used a company out of New Jersey, J.J. Kane Auction. It was very simple to set up. We sent out a request for proposals, heard back from them. I believe they were the only company that contacted us, and it was very simple to do that. So we're hoping within, I think we had a deadline of the next 30 days, hoping sooner than that we can have a list of everything to get out to municipal properties and work on that. P cards, Mayor Marco mentioned that we are going to work on transitioning from the Fuel Man program to using P cards for fuel purchases. Now, we're working with Tracy to make sure those cards will stay in the vehicles. They'll be separate from their P card, and they'll have a PIN number, just like the Fuel Man card, to log in, so we can just keep track of that for the departments. Sorry, having a hard time reading my writing. The grapple truck, that is going to be coming into town in the next couple of days. So we'll be looking at setting up that schedule for pickup, the bulk pickups. So that should be in the next, hopefully the next month or so, depending on Ralph's position. He is retiring. He did submit his retirement letter to me, and March the 18th will be his last day, and we're hopeful that we can go ahead and get that advertised to get somebody in place before Ralph leaves and get everything transitioned. So this afternoon, I met with Bryson Van Ostren, and we talked about the Sanitation Garage because that went out in 2018. Everything's ready. We just need to put together, he's going to put together a plan, and we've decided to work with Ralph, and if the new supervisor is hired by then, we'll work together to come up with a plan for that. Now, we did talk in municipal properties about maybe a shared space. I know the building for the street department was mentioned. Sean had asked me about his storage building because we're getting new equipment and we have to move things around. So I was a little hesitant to spend the amount of money on a storage building when we're going to be putting a new building over there. So we did kind of talk about kind of a shared space. So that is something that Bryson said he'd be happy to work up, and we can talk some more about that. Let's see. Another thing that we talked about, the Municipal Properties Committee had a special meeting regarding some of the City Hall projects. And those items that we talked about, priority items, were a generator, a fire alarm system, lighting, masonry and facade restoration, and ADA upgrades. So Bryson wasn't able to participate in the municipal properties meeting, so he came in today. We talked, and he had communicated with both Jessica and I via email. We talked about a generator. That is one thing he's been checking on. He said right now those are about 11 months out. He does know a customer that ordered one, and they said it would be delivered sometime in November. So that is something that we still have on the agenda, and maybe bidding that out in the spring. He said it might have to get creative with that to see. where that will go. The fire alarm system, I did ask him, we kind of bumped that up to number 1. He was working with, New Tech, and they came up and met with us. Chief Himes was there. They went around the building with the to see all the electrical work and everything that would need to be done for the fire alarm system. What happened was the cost was coming in above $25,000, which at that point we have to bid out. So they kind of, they put a little hold on that, and he's going to get that bid. He said within the next 30 days he'll have all the information ready to put that out to bid. So we may have to bid that out separately with the wiring and the work from New Tech. We were just kind of talking about it, so we'll let everybody know as soon as we get that ready. We also talked about the lighting, transitioning to LED lights. That's something that he said, he's going to look at the lights to see if we can do that or if we need to get new fixtures. So that's something else that was on the agenda. The masonry and facade restoration outside, there are very specialized companies that can do this work. He said he's talked to a couple of those companies that are months and months out. They are just so busy right now. So we are going to work on that and get a plan together for that as well. And then the ADA upgrades, he's going to develop the construction drawings in the spring, and then we'll get ready to bid those projects out as well. So it looks like most of the things are in the works, but we have to get them bid out, and some of the work may be done later on, just depending on the workload of construction work or contractors, and it seems to be everyone has a heavy load right now. So he was looking at all the mapping to run the conduit. He wanted to look at the building. He checked out all the exit lights. We need to just work, there are a lot of upgrades that we need to do. So he's making a list of that, and he would like to attend the February Municipal Properties Committee meeting. So he's got that on his calendar. Let's see. That may be it for me. Is that everything, Jessica, that we had with Bryson?
I think so.
I think so. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. I do, Melanie. And if I miss something, just tell me.
Sure.
First of all, have we made any progress on getting the engineering work done on the bridge?
Which
On
bridge?
Davis Avenue.
Not yet. The mayor and Jamie Rossi and Ron
Well,
Navenshoe and I met.
I am, as you know, deeply concerned that we not diddle another day on this. We are behind the curve now, and that is not an acceptable place to be for us as a city. That bridge is a critical artery in this city, and the funding is out there to address this, and I would like for us to be told no later than the next council meeting that we have an engineering firm, that we don't have a deal with the DOH, because that's just not going to get it done. We've got to be moving on this, and so I want to really urge that.
Sure.
Other question I had was about the fire alarm system in EPD. Has that been completed and hooked up and tested?
Not yet. There's a panel that has to go in still, and I know we had talked to Bryson to see if that can be upgraded before the rest of the building, and he said really it needs to all be done at the same time. So in the next 30 days, he said he would have a plan, and we can go out to bid on that.
Okay. Do we think that's going to be fairly expensive just to get that panel put in?
Well, I think there's more work that needs to be done than just the panel, and it all has to be done at the same time in the city hall the whole building, including the police department.
Okay.
And that was coming in, the work for that, for all of the fire alarm system was coming in over 25, so the estimates, so that's why we have to go to bid it out.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did have a question too, if I may. Just for clarification, because I don't know, I hadn't heard. The Sanitation Garage, is that due to be replaced? Is that what you were referring to? Okay.
Yeah, we actually rent right now.
Oh.
Over on South Railroad, we rent that building, we don't own that building. So it's been in the works for quite some time to replace, and we did purchase property on Baxter Street near the Water Department Street and Central Garage.
Right.
To put in a new garage.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Chief Himes.
I'll be brief. You should have a blue folder in front of you. I left at your table before most of you got here. That's our annual report for this year. If you feel I have bombarded you with information, I'm sorry, but I'm not. There's a lot of stuff that I felt I wanted everybody to know. It's been a long time since we submitted anything like this, and want to give and I looked at an old one when I was preparing this one, and I'm like, well, that's changed, that's changed, that's changed, that's changed. So it took a little longer than I expected it to. So basically, there's a lot of statistical information in there. You don't have to digest it tonight. I'm giving you homework. So, but if you have any questions, something you don't understand, something you want to know more about, I'm easy to find. So we've been relatively steady since the first of the year. It seemed like everybody remembered how to drive the last couple weeks or so we didn't get an influx of that kind of stuff. But other than that, anybody got any questions about anything?
Chief, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. This is something that I had shared at Public Safety, and wanted to actually address it at the last meeting, but wasn't here. After the fire in West Central, I came over by your department, and of course you were tied up with your interviews, and I got to have a long conversation with the fire marshal. And he was raving about our fire department and how blessed we are to have the department that we currently have, and said he would put them up against anybody in this state. So I want to commend you for your training efforts and the volunteers that we have and the staff and the effort that they put into this. So thank you very much.
Well, a lot of people don't know Joe's background, so the gentleman, to shed the light elsewhere, the gentleman that the mayor is speaking of works for the fire marshal's office. He's from Long Island, New York. He didn't lose the accent. His law enforcement career started in the 75th precinct in the NYPD. He then came to Northern Virginia and worked in Fairfax County, and he was on the Urban Search and Rescue Task Force that responded to both the Pentagon and the World Trade Center on 9/11. And now he did fire investigations in Fairfax, and the state happened to pick him up in retirement. And I can promise you he's making a fraction of what he used to, but he is really good at his job. He's the best fire investigator I have ever met. So he's a good dude. And,
I was going to say this from
it
mayor's
does
comments.
mean a lot coming from Joe.
I was going to say this from my mayor's comments, but I want to address it while you're standing there in front of everyone, just so we can thank you personally, like I said. And I do attribute it to your stringent training schedule that you have for the guys. So thank you.
Anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Sutton.
Thank
Someone
you,
not named
Mayor.
Hans tonight.
That's right. Just a few things to go through. First, I want to just sort of reiterate what Melody's comment about Ben Martin. He's doing a fantastic job, and he is so willing to sort of take on all these different projects. He has such enthusiasm for the work. He's worked a lot with Whitney. He's worked a lot with Wes and the street department, and with me on projects, and he's really a big asset. And I would say the same for Whitney and Wes. It's been really nice these last few months to get to spend more time with them and get to know them and their departments a little bit better. Melody talked about the City Hall report. Sutton and I had a really good meeting this morning with LMC Associates, who manages our website. We had a kickoff meeting for the redesign of the website. Very informative for me. It's an area that I'm fairly ignorant about how all that background stuff works, so that was really informative. We've got a great plan in place. I feel like we have a really good team and moving that forward. The next step in that will be for them to develop the site mapping of what currently exists, and then taking on some things that Sutton's provided them about what we'd like to see, different types of designs and things. They'll provide that back to us. We'll go through that, and we'll have some back and forth about, and what the mapping is just how things will be organized on the site. And so that'll be the first step, and then the design elements and the content will come after that. So that process has started, and I'm very enthusiastic about that. As far as the ARPA funding, the community request form, we finalized that form today, and that will be put out within either tomorrow or early next week. That'll be made publicly available. Sutton will work on a little press release associated with that to make sure that everybody knows how to access that. So the ARPA, the ad hoc ARPA advisory committee decided at their last meeting to create this, have this procedure to field these types of requests. Council dedicated 5% of the funds at this point, which is approximately $154 of the total amount, towards these community-based requests. So those parties that are interested will fill out the form. It's an online, it's a Google form, can provide printed copies if we need to. That'll be submitted. It asks very specific questions. It asks them to really look at their proposals and make sure that they are going to fall into what they believe, the Treasury guidelines to be. Those requests will come to me. I'll filter through them again, and then they'll go to the committee for review and decision and recommendation onto council as to how those funds should be spent. So that will be coming. The deadline for those submissions will be February the 28th, and then the committee was going to meet again sometime in March to review those. If you haven't seen, the Elkins Randolph County Chamber of Commerce is hosting a number of strategic planning sessions. They've been sending out some emails publicizing that. They're running from January 11th to the 25th. I think they had a total of 10 dates available. I'll be attending one tomorrow. They're open to the public, so if you have an interest and you haven't seen those, information's available on their website, or you can let me know and I can forward it on to you. And at the next council meeting on February the 3rd, I believe it is, I'll have a review of our strategic plan prepared. So we'll do our annual review of that, take a look at where we are, what we have left to accomplish. If you remember, that plan runs through 2023. So we'll be on, a couple of years left in that plan, and then looking at potentially starting to develop our next strategic plan. I think it'll be useful too to go to these Chamber of Commerce meetings and sort of see how their process works, and maybe take some ideas from them when we start working through our next process. And finally, for municipal properties, Marilyn mentioned the parking plan. So back in the fall, myself, Ben, Madeline Higgins from Main Street, Melody was involved, I believe, a little bit in the conversations, but primarily it was the three of us sat down and looked at parking in downtown Elkins. One of the very first things that we did was develop a boundary. When we talk about downtown parking, what are we talking about? And municipal properties did adopt that boundary in the fall. But inside that boundary, we wanted to really determine, we went block by block at both sides of the street, looked at what businesses existed, what residents were there, whether they were single-family homes, even if they were second-floor apartments, where those residents may have had access to parking, whether they needed on-street parking, if they had nearby public parking that was available. So we went through and evaluated all of that and came up with a plan for municipal properties, which they did adopt the other day. And the plan indicates very specifically areas that there'll be no parking restrictions at all, meaning, and those are targeted towards people who live in the downtown area. So they don't have to move their vehicles every 3 hours during the business hours. There'll be areas that are designated as a 3-hour free parking, Monday through Friday. I believe it's 9 to 5. And then there'll be areas where there'll be no parking allowed at all. Those are limited, but there are a few blocks that parking is not feasible. So we feel like we have a really good plan moving forward. Municipal Properties did adopt that, and so when the street department looks at working with the Main Street and the adopted streetscape plan and changing parking, removing parking poles, putting new lining down, putting signage up and things like that, we have a really good place to start. The other thing I'll mention is we did part of that conversation was about discussing if there was a need for residential parking permits. And based on the number of residents currently downtown, we didn't feel that that was necessary at this time. But it is also something that could change in the future. I know there's a lot of interest, enthusiasm to develop more residential units downtown, especially second floors of buildings and things like that. So that could obviously change in the future. But we did talk about that and decided right now that we really didn't think that that was necessary. Do you have any questions about that, parking? Okay, I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts?
Thank you, Mayor. Just two real quick comments. I believe Councilor Kwanzo was talking about something we discussed at Municipal Properties, and it has to do with the lease on the Darden House. As you know, the city owns that, and they are in a lease arrangement with the Historic Landmarks Commission. And Councilor Kwanzo and Ms. Derlin and I are going to be meeting to go over that. So we'll probably be bringing a new lease document to come back to council for your approval for the mayor to sign off on behalf of the city. The other thing is, I hope that tomorrow when Senator Hamilton visits here, I've put together several things I'd like the mayor to take some time to talk to him about, specifically about bills that are pending. He is on the Finance Committee. He is the only local legislator, either in the House of Delegates or the Senate, that is on that committee. And there's a bill that I sent an email out to all of you about that is somewhat of a concern, that would do away with B&O taxes and the impact that would have on cities because of the dependence for revenue, since obviously, as you all know, cities are limited where their sources of revenue are. So that bill and a couple others, I'm going to have a little something to give to the mayor tomorrow. And if he has the opportunity and can find an ear from Senator Hamilton, these might be some things that would be good for him to think about when he goes back to the session. And I'll keep you updated as much as I can with regard to any of the, the legislature just started. So there's lots going on, and it changes daily as to when hearings are and whatever, but the Municipal League and other municipal attorneys are pretty good about keeping us all. So if I think there's something you ought to know about, we'll put it out there so that you're up to speed on that. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Did you want to mention at all about Coke Lane?
Oh, yes, there is. We've had a lot of these lately. We had a petition for an abandonment of a portion of an alley. If you all are aware of the fact that the Randolph County Housing Authority has purchased what was referred to previously as the Allegheny Apartments there on South Davis, there was a very small part of an alley that's called Coke Alley that's behind that building that abuts that property and property that was formerly owned by Kelly Foundry. Now it's owned by Mr. Jarrett. We had a hearing prior to the Municipal Properties meeting, and the committee recommended that that portion of the alley be abandoned. So it was not, we didn't have it in time to bring it to this meeting, so at the first February meeting, I'll be bringing an ordinance for you all to consider with regard to abandonment of that portion of Coke Alley.
And that will have 2 readings, correct?
Correct, just like we've had a bunch of these lately. I think everyone's looking at doing this. So it's really a good thing we have a procedure in place now, and that makes it a lot more uniform and very clear as to what you have to do, and there'll be a quick claim deed at the end of it all. Was there anything else about that, Counselor?
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
All
Sure.
right, thank you. Okay, moving on. Approval of the vendor invoice payments.
I move we pay the AP.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And under new business, this is actually a very short agenda tonight. Discussion of holiday compensation for civil service employees.
So moved?
Well,
It's-
yeah, there's nothing, there's no motion. It's just a discussion. It's a discussion topic.
We need an executive session. It's
We probably-
related to a personnel matter with, and,
Want to
so
make a motion to go into executive
I would
session?
suggest that that's probably appropriate.